All right, welcome. So today we're going to talk about transferring user options or user information into the game without using a lobby manager. So this is actually a little tricky. So you notice that we're going to be using the first example we did. So we have just a built-in structure, LAN host, start that. And here's we have a bad guys moving around and we have our player capsule cylinder thing. So our goal here is we want to put information on here, so maybe we see the player name and maybe we can see the player color or some options. So this is what we want to do, but we do not want to use a lobby manager. Now a lobby manager does this for you to some degree, but it forces you to have a game that you have to synchronize in a lobby. Everyone has to click ready and then it has to start. Because of that, it limits what kind of games you can have. You can't have a game that is continuously running and people can join and leave whenever they want. So some games it's okay to have a lobby. In most games it's okay, but some games you don't want that. So how do we transfer player information into the game when it's this style where we have like just as soon as we connect, we immediately start the game? To do this, we're going to have to create a UI, and we're actually going to have to create our own networking HUD. So let's go over to the main scene if you want to open this project, and then we're going to create a UI. Now, I may have told you this when you were in game one. Oh, we don't want that to be a parent of or child of the camera, but the UI can actually be more difficult than the networking itself. This can be some of the more painful aspects of the networking, especially when we get into matchmaking. So what we're going to do here is we're going to then we're going to make a couple buttons. I shall make a panel. We're going to make it, we'll keep it that way. And then we're going to add a button. And we're going to anchor the button around the button itself so we don't have to worry about it scaling. And this is going to be host. And I'll make another button. This is going to be join. Now, normally I would have to have an IP address, so I'd need a text box to type in an IP address to try to connect to if I was doing a join, but for this proof of concept, we're just going to use localhost. Again, if this was normally, I'd have to have a text box here that you type the IP address in, that you connect to, but we're not going to do that for this one. So here, this is going to be joined. We're just going to say localhost for now. All right, now, but we're not quite done yet. We also want to say, we want to enter the player's name and give the player an option of what color they want to be, red or blue. Well, so something simple like that. Now, this is a little trickier than you would think though, because when the game starts, it's automatically going to spawn the network player. Remember, the network player at the moment is going to automatically spawn the game piece. But it spawns on the server side, and the server is not going to have the player information. The client's going to have the player information. So we have to send that to the server, and the server has to wait until it receives that information to then spawn the game piece. So this is going to be a little more complicated. I'll review that again. But first of all, let's set up our UI. So we're going to have a input field. Not going to worry too much about making a fancy UI, just enough to get us the proof of concept. And input field placeholder text will be enter player name. And finally, we're going to have a drop-down menu. And this is going to be option A will be blue. We'll do alphabetical. Option B will be red. Option C will be, I guess, green. I wasn't planning on having 3, but we'll make 3. Why not? All right, and remember when we do this, the value gets passed in as that index. So here's our UI, and then this is going to be how we join or create. So let's go back here to project. The next thing we need to do real quick is go down to player, or my piece rather, or yeah, player, I guess, player, and we're going to create 3 materials, or 3 color materials. I have green, I think. Okay. Here, we'll set this to green. Blue will be set to blue. And red will be set to red. All right. So we now have these 3 materials. We're going to open up our player script. And we're going to include the game piece controller. Actually, we're going to open up the game piece controller. And we're going to have public array of colors, public material, new material, three. And yes, I know I'm using kind of the old school syntax for this, but this is how I do it. So here we make this public. We should be able to access this externally. We could apply our materials here. So 0 is going to be blue, 1 is going to be red, and 2 is going to be green. We'll keep the indexes to be the same as, you guessed it, the index we get from the choice. We also need to add 2 new things here. Public string player name. Be careful because remember, name itself means name of the game object. So player name, and public int team color. So we'll need both of these, and both of these will have to be syncvarred. These will only be set on creation, so it's they will not have a lot of what's the word? They should not have a lot of overhead for the network traffic, so we won't have to worry about that. But it's only when we create the game piece, not the network player, but the game piece, will we have to worry about syncing those 2 things up. So this is what we're going to set up or change in our game piece controller. Remember, this is not the network player. This is the game piece itself that we've separated out. So now going back to our prefab, have this. Where's our prefab? Here we go. And we should have our, where's our scripts? Nope, wrong prefab. There we go. So element 1 is going to be blue. Element, or 0, I mean, element 1 is going to be red, which apparently I have 2 reds already. And element 2 is going to be green. All right, so now we set that. So let's save scene. Let's save project. Okay. So now we have the boilerplate code is finished. What now? How do we get the information from the client on the offline scene to the server on the online scene? There are a couple ways of doing this. One, my personal favorite, and what I think is most obvious in this case, is to use the network manager. This network manager is something that we're going to we can store information to, and we can retrieve information from it. Now, at the moment, it doesn't really make sense for us to have to. We could, if we want, we could extend the network manager, which I think I'm trying to think if I did this. No, this is the default one. So we could extend the network manager and add our two values to it. But we know that this object itself is going to remain intact. So one thing we can do is we'll put it under game piece, I guess. We'll make a new script and we'll call it player info. Which did not open. There we go. Again, we're going to be using Unity Engine networking. And we're going to make this a network behavior. And I'm going to try something in a minute, just a quick experiment, but right now we'll keep it simple. We're going to sync var public int team and sync var public string p name. All right. I'm gonna try something in a moment because I think I can mark this as static. I want to double check it though. Let's just get to work first. So now we go back down here, and now we have to figure out how to set this. So I'm putting it on the network manager. So I need to have callbacks for these things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to okay. We're going to create the host and join functions. Actually, I don't have to. It's on the same game object, so I'll do this dot game object dot get component network manager dot start host. There we go. And public void join game. Again, we're going to look for this .game object because it's going to be on this game object, just in a different script. Network manager dot start client. So these are the three functions worth remembering. We have start client, which basically joins whatever the IP address is currently set to, or network address. Start host creates a server and a client, and start server just creates a normal server that a client cannot play on. So we have these two functions, and then we're going to have the public void set team, which takes int. This is going to be team equals t, and we're going to have public void set p name. And p name equals p. So here's our 4 callbacks for our UI. Again, pause the video if I'm going too fast. Let's save that. We'll go back to Unity, and on Network Manager, we're going to add this new script, player info. Maybe. There we go. Oh, no. I'm sorry. It's not a network. I apologize. Messed up. This is not this is just a mono behavior. This is not a network behavior. I apologize. And these are not sync vars. I will explain later how we're going to transfer it. I apologize. It was silly of me. So this is a mono behavior. This player information is not a network behavior. We are going to look for Network Manager though, so I guess we have to. I guess we do need using Unity engine.networking, but this is not a networking behavior. Okay, so we'll explain how we're going to get this later. I apologize. Again, not a network behavior because we do not want. We cannot have a network ID on a Network Manager. There we go. So this, I'm going to just remove this right now for a moment. Remove component. All right. So there we go. Again, this is not a network behavior. I apologize. So we're going to leave this blank, or we're going to say this is going to be like 100. And then we're going to make this default. So something silly. Now, on our UI, we're going to have our callbacks linked to our Network Manager. And actually, you usually want to make the canvas a child of Network Manager so that when it comes back, you'll have the link will still be there. Otherwise, what happens is the canvas may not be necessarily linked to your Network Manager. For now, I'm not going to do that, but just keep in mind that this should probably be a child of Network Manager, and when you start the game, you just disable this panel, rather. That's what you should do. This should be a child of there. There we go. Fix this real quick. In fact, I might do that in a moment. Network Manager, so button 1, Network Manager, select player info, start game, or create game, there we go, join game button, the same idea, I'll drag in the Network Manager, function player info, join game, and then input field here. On value changed, we'll do changed. We'll do Network Manager. And make sure when you hit player info, you do dynamic string, not static parameters, a dynamic string, and do set pname. And on drop down, again, select your Network Manager and player info. And again, dynamic int, not static parameter, the dynamic, do set team. So, this will transfer the information in. But this is again, we're going to have a problem now. So let's go ahead and run this. We should run, just it's not going to do what we think it's going to do. So I'm going to say my name, and I like blue, I'll be blue. I'm going to say host. So I expand this now. I have the Network Manager, but my game piece is neither blue nor do I have anything on name. In fact, I don't even have my values set for this yet. I don't think I even have values here for this. Oh, I do. Player name and team color are both 0. There are sync vars, but they're not being set. What's happening? Well, one, we're not actually setting them. But 2, we have a problem because in this case it would work because I'm the host, but the client's network manager is not going to synchronize the variables to the server. The server is the one creating the game piece, remember. So that means we have to figure out a way to send the information to the server. So what we're going to do now is pretty much the crux of the point of this video. So I know there's a lot of setup for this. I apologize, but it'll make more sense in a moment. So now we have to go to the network player. Remember, the network player is something that gets spawned, and we're going to have to do some stuff in the network player now. So script or player 2 prefab. I think it was network player 2, right? That's the one we're using. Yes. So here we have the spawn. If it's server, we spawn the piece immediately. That's great. But now we can't do that. So we have to say we need to have a sync var string p name, and this needs it doesn't have to be public, but we'll make it public just to be on the safe side. And we have a sync var public 19. Now we're going to do something a little bit different. If is, oh no, it's not right. If is client, I don't know why it was where is client, there we go. We're going to find the network object, so we're going to say network manager nm equals game object dot find network manager, so hopefully that's what I called it, dot get component network manager. Network 1W. All right, make sure it is what I called it. Just double check. Yes, it is. Okay. All right, so I get the network manager, and now I'm going to get the script. So I'm going to say, now remember, this is the client, and I need to set these sync vars. They have to be set on the server. So now I need to set, in fact, I'm going to do this real quick. So I equals null and equals null. So default's null, sorry, 0, or it'll do -1 because 0 is actually a valid thing. So now I need a command to set these two values for the server. Void cmd, remember it has to start with cmd, set values, and we're going to pass in, string p int t, and p name equals p, and team equals t. So now all I have to do is invoke this command from the client and pass in two values for it. Pass in command, and I just realized this is not the, sorry, this is not what I wanted. I wanted player info here, not network manager. There we go. So now we're going to say also PI. Now we're passing in PI dot string, so PI dot player name and PI dot team. So now we are done. Well, almost. So now the client, if it's a client, you're going to send the information over to the server, which is going to set these sync vars. Now when I spawn the piece, I can say, right here when I set my sync vars, I can say con.team color equals team and con.p name player name equals p name. And now it should work, or at least you would think it would work. There is one little problem though. This is going to happen at the same time. So if the client is going to immediately find this and send this information, remember on the network manager, this information only exists on each of the individual clients. If it's the server, then this is automatically going to spawn. If this automatically spawns, it's going to run this code and the team color and player name is going to be null. It might work on a host because it's using the same network manager, but it will not work on a client. So now we have a synchronization issue. To alleviate this, we're going to have to make this a coroutine, or we're going to have a coroutine here. Excuse me. We're going to get rid of our server tag here just because it's a coroutine and we know that we're only going to call this inside if server. Public IE numerator, spawn player piece, and yield, or we'll do it this way, while, and you can do this in shorthand with Boolean too, but we'll just do it this way for now. While team equals -1 equal 1, or p name equal null. We're going to yield return new wait for seconds, and we'll say 0.2. This is actually pretty fast, so we shouldn't have to wait too long for this, but we want to make sure that this has time to send information. These values get set on the server, so while that's happening, this is just going to spin, and then once it's no longer equal to 1 and player name is not equal to null, it's going to jump out. Do I have this, my logic right here? True or true? Yeah, it's fine. That's fine. Okay. So now with this, it should wait till the server has information, and then we can spawn it from here. Once we spawn it, the sync vars should be set, so we can after we do the spawn, we can have a function that will then set the material for it. So we need to go ahead and do that. I can't do this in start. I'll come back to that in a moment. So let's see if this works. And let's do green because that'll change the value. We'll host. Okay, so let's see what worked and what didn't. So we'll start with the game piece. It's the most important. You'll see that the player name did not get set. So we'll figure out what's going on there. And team color did not get set. Okay. So if we go to network manager or network player, we have these are, I have to set those to public. Okay. And we go to network manager, we'll see that we did in fact set the network manager. So that is set correctly. Let's find out what went wrong here. Public string. Oh, I didn't save it. That would help. That would help. Let's try that again. Okay, so here we're waiting for something that's never happening. So now we have this deadlock issue. I don't know why we have a deadlock issue at the moment, but let's find out. So network player prefab clone. We had the value set correctly on our team. So what went wrong? My logic must be wrong. Let's go look at the logic again. Okay, so if team is equal to -1, that's we want to wait. Or if player name is equal to null, we want to wait. But both of those should be true. Oh, because I didn't start the coroutine. I always forget to start the coroutine. All right. Let's try that again. Now we look at game piece. Game piece is there. That means it worked. We have our name is bat. Our team color is 2. So now we've successfully sent information from a offline screen to the server on the online screen and had the server wait for the player information before spawning the character. An alternate solution to this is have the menu inside the online scene. So you immediately join the game, you have the menu. Once you set your information, that sets the sync vars, and once those sync vars are set, the player object gets spawned. But this is a little more. This is if you want to do it from the offline. The other way you can do it is you can set the values after the player object's been spawned, and then once they've been spawned, you can set the values on all the clients with sync vars, and then call an RPC and have all the clients manually change the color and the values. I feel like it's a little more cumbersome, but you can do that. So if I have done this correctly now, I believe, let's try something. We're going to try something here. Oh, actually, first of all, before I do that, let me demonstrate that does work with 2 players. Whenever you're testing out multiplayer games, make sure you use 2 people, not just the host. Things work better on the host than they do on clients. P1, it'll be red, host, allow access, come on. So now this is the server over here. Green. Interesting, I feel like I have another canvas subject. That's strange. I don't have that is setting it, just not showing up on my UI for some reason. There's something wrong with my UI here. But anyway, it is setting. I have to double check why it's happening. Then I'll say join. So now if I expand this, I'll see 2 network players and 2 game pieces. First game piece should be a team 2 or 1, and name is P1. Good. Team and game, and the second game piece should be P1 and 1. that too. But this one is not. Do I have control? I have control of it. I'm sorry, I did make a mistake. Let's go back over here. It's not is client, it's is local player. There we go. I apologize. So when we want the local player to send the information in, not whether or not it's a client. I apologize for that. It's my bug. All right, we'll go back over here, build it real quick. And then we'll say P1, red, and host. And this will be P2, which again, I don't know why my values aren't being set here. And join. Okay, so now we look at this. We both are there. Here I have P2 and 2 green, good. And here I have P1 and 1. So now the game pieces on the client also have the correct information from all the players. So this proves that we are sending the information through the network manager, through the network player to the individual game piece. So the last thing to be the change is how do we actually change the color now? So there's a couple ways you can do this. I could have an RPC call and have everyone just set their own color, or I could do this from start, but again, I'm going to have a little bit of a problem because if I do this in start, if you look at how we set this up, I instantiate it here, and then I run a controller, and then I set my sync vars, and I spawn it. I'm going to do an experiment and see if I set it after this. Because start, I thought all the sync vars were supposed to be set in start on network behavior. So we're going to try this. It may not work. But in fact, we're going to do it this way. If team color does not equal -1, I go ahead and set this dot game object dot get component mesh render dot material equals colors bracket team color. This should, so if the sync var has been set in start, then this should be true, and then both client and server should activate this. I don't think this is going to work on the client, but we're going to find out. This will be a quick experiment. It should work on the host, but try it real quick. So there's got to be something wrong with my size on my. There it goes. Okay, host. So that worked on the host as I would expect. Let's see. It may work on the client. They may have fixed it. There used to be a synchronization issue here. that worked on the host, it should actually work on the client. So P1 is going to be bread, host. P2, come on. This is going to be green, join. Okay, it does work. All right, excellent. So they did fix this, which is really nice. Now with a network behavior inside start, all sync vars will be set if you've set the sync vars before you spawn it inside a network behavior. So this actually will work. This used to not be synchronized, and you'd have to have a coroutine and wait for this to be set on the clients, but this has now been fixed, so that's great. So we're going to have to, so you don't even have to, so you, now assuming you've instantiated on the server, set the coroutines, and then spawned it, you can assume that start is going to have all the sync vars correctly set. So you no longer have to have a coroutine or a while loop check inside here. Now there are some circumstances where that won't work in case you're like spawning an object. The object may not be spawned yet if you're waiting. So you may still have situations where you have to wait for something inside the game piece, but in this case for a simple sync var, you do not. So this is how you set the colors. And you could also extend this and have a canvas above the player and have their name print out above the player piece if you wanted to. But this is how you can now, we should now be able to get information from this non-lobby network manager to, or from the offline scene to the online scene.